So did JAYSHREE see the opportunity to add value, or did she see the opportunity to inculcate the value that she was watching?
For me, actually speaking, when I started doing this area of going to the tribal area, there was no JAYSHREE.
Oh,
I was like, it was in the moment. My ability, or rather my professional output which I had, my ability was what was a gift which I thought I should be part of it. So, and when you do these things, there is no you. There is no person at all. You just get engaged into all kinds of little big ones. It's so much that you don't know, and already it's evening and you're so beautiful that you go to sleep, and next morning you're excited to do the next part. So that's what it was. And how would you say? It was like I knew that what I was doing was nothing big, was nothing major, but to them, everything was big.
yes.
It was.
Hi, this is your Meenamma, and welcome to Meet Meenamma's beautiful edition on Made in Vizag. Today is rather special. In fact, such a close to my heart session for the next few minutes. We have with us on the hot seat a woman whom I adore with my heart, a woman who has stood out from the rest, a woman who's indeed the best of the best. Today, in her capacity and with her sobriquet of a narrator for heritage, she brings to this city the life, the afterlife, and what it was in the future and the past. We have with us a woman who's added so much of meaning by just being in Vizag. Let me introduce to you the vibrant, the vivacious, the most beautiful JAYSHREE Hatangadi. JAYSHREE is a retired marketing professional with a passion for Visakhapatnam heritage and for tribal community and engagements. She's a luminary whose life story unfolds like a rich tapestry woven with threads of passion, purpose, and panache. Born into the dynamic world of an armed forces doctor, Hatangadi's childhood was a symphony of travels across the country, imparting her with a profound understanding of the nation's diverse culture and traditions. With a career spanning over 28 years, she has left a mark in the realms of business, training, and education. As the visionary behind Reach Marketing Services, she not only represented multinational giants but also mentored more than 6,000 young adults, sculpting them into leaders for the future. Yet her journey transcends beyond corporate world. Armed with degrees in psychology, library science, and marketing, she possesses so much of wisdom that propels her forward. Coming back to Vizag in 2006 marked not just homecoming, but a renaissance. Here she established 40 primary schools in primary hinterlands, igniting the flame of education where it needed most. Her collaboration with DRDO for the World Bank initiatives brings a beacon of empowerment for these minds. For her selfless dedication to the community, JAYSHREE was honored with the prestigious Paul Harris Rotary Award, recognizing her outstanding contribution to society alongside her professional achievements. As a patron of heritage preservation, her association with INTAC as a life member underscores her reverence for various aspects of nature, built and traditional cultures. Whether organizing hands-on programs with municipal school kids or advocating for the conservation of historic sites, her dedication has no bounds. Her tenure as Director of Indian Operations of the School Year Abroad epitomizes her global vision. Guiding these students through transformative educational experiences, she bridged cultural differences and fostered cross-cultural understanding. Recognizing her prowess, she was entrusted with the task of launching SYA Vietnam in Hanoi, a testament to her great leadership. In every phase, JAYSHREE epitomizes the essence of living one's dream, a life adorned with purpose, passion, and a profound commitment by shaping the next generation of responsible citizens. JAYSHREE to me is also Cookie, the medical clown with our NGO. Being a cancer warrior herself, she brings to every dark room her light of knowledge, and a first-hand experience. Ladies and gentlemen, a woman whom we cannot put in a capsule. She's indeed a spark, a beacon of hope. Put your hands together as I welcome JAYSHREE Hatangadi. Hi, JAYSHREE.
Hi, Meenamma.
How do you feel to be on Meenamma's seat today?
I think it's a very interesting and aspirational to let the city of our own to know about who we are, what we are doing, and you're doing so beautifully, making sure that each one brings another array of understanding of what they do for the city.
Thank you, Jay. Jay, you are truly born in Vizag. You are a baby of Vizag. This is your cradle. You spent your childhood here, your growing years here. Vizag shaped who you were till you were an adult enough to understand who you actually are. But what is your childhood? You're the daughter of a doctor who served the Navy. So, you know, you were here and there and everywhere. You went to 9 cities, 9 schools. You traveled with your father. But Vizag was always the brand imprinted in your heart. So what was your childhood all about?
Vizag was home, Vizag was my summer, Vizag was fun, and Vizag was granny love.
Oh.
So that was what it was. And it was so special that whatever I did over the months, sometimes twice a year, it would always be something to come back and tell all my family members, my granny, my uncles, and everybody. Yes, I was special because I studied at different places like Bombay or Pune and all those. When I came back, yeah, they all had a wonderful year. They would love to hear about it. But more than anything else, taking back that relationship love was very special, to go back and tell my friends in my school all about Vizag, which was so beautiful always.
So Vizag was like home. It was a warm hug from a grandmother, and it was the place where your language Telugu was spoken and you ate all those yummy Andhra food.
Yes.
But you had stories of different cities and traveling with a naval officer as a child. How did that influence you to grow as a person to who you are today?
When you travel and go to so many schools, there's a instant wanting to be liked by all or connected with everybody, whether it is the immediate friends, neighbors, teachers, and anyone around, because everybody is a stranger every new place you go to. So I think it was a beautiful skill that we self-learn or self-create within to get connected that fast. And that is, I think, is a beautiful way of making sure that you inclusive in their life, inclusive in my life. So that's what is definitely what I learned. And I think that's what kept me going all my life. That's wonderful.
Wonderful, Jay. Jay, you and I belong to a generation of women, of girls, who thought it was, appropriate for us to take the normal route that an Indian daughter did. You know, you pass out of your college, you find your mate, you put your nest together, you have your babies, and life goes on. But you and I have been different slightly. You chose to be, a professional as you grew up, a marketing professional. And many people do not know this. You know, people who look at JAYSHREE, they only know you as this wonderful warrior of heritage. But who was that actual professional whom we missed? Tell us more about your marketing stint and how it came to be, and whether it was before marriage, after marriage. Tell us all about it.
In fact, that's the first thing you said. We come from a particular period of time where there was a set pattern for women to go. But I always thought my father or people around me were fascinated with people anywhere in the world or even in our own place, of somebody, a woman who had held her space, whether it's at work or whether it is somewhere. It was rare, no doubt about it. And that was not that it inspired me, it was a goal.
It was a goal.
It
yeah,
was
you
a
had to be
goal.
there.
Yeah, because many times we say inspire, but whether the inspiration actually results in what happens is a question mark for us.
Yes.
Those days. Now that was something. And I remember during my junior college in Lucknow, there was where they said we could be volunteers, promoters to sell Horlicks. And I was the first one who raised hand. And that was every evening for 3 hours, and we get a certain amount of money, and we get 2 bottles of Horlicks
Horlicks.
for 1 week and maybe for weekend. I chose the 1 week one, I chose the weekend one, but then I had to tell a lie to my dad, although my mom knew it. But then when my mom told my dad said there was nothing to lie. Very nice that you chose to do it. I think that was the base which said, I am capable.
You know, Jayshree, thereafter, your company Outreach, I remember you were already a married woman and you were in Chennai, and it was a name, a household name, and
Reach marketing.
Reach marketing, yes, reach marketing. It was people in the 80s, people would often talk about this, and multinational brands came to you automatically as their choice to ask you to, put themselves out and how to, give their brand image and how to sell them out. How was it? What was your experience in actually promoting these multinational brands? You know, India was waking up to the arrival or the re-entry of these multinational brands at that time, and an intelligent woman with a company that made so much value. Tell us about that experience.
Setting up Reach Marketing in Chennai itself was a story, because I was hurt. I couldn't use my arm, and I felt I was not good for anything. But Sohan, my husband, had just joined Philips those days, and he needed promoters to promote domestic appliances. And he said, why don't you help me? Help was a word which I really don't like in the term. So that's when I said, myself and a few others devised a pathway of how to promote these products at dealer counters. It was a hit.
Wow.
Right from day one, because we never were shy, we were open, and how the domestic appliances actually help a woman or help the kitchen or help anybody. That went to another, and Reach Marketing got set in 1986, and there was no turning back. And company after company, Chennai as a market is a tough market.
Yes.
Doesn't fall for fads, doesn't fall for quick programs. They always think before they buy
sustenance,
something.
yes.
They think before they choose something. So if you can succeed in a Chennai market, you will probably succeed anywhere else in the rest of the country. So that's how company after company would come and ask us. And they would all come with a preset program which maybe would work in Bombay. And I would say, nah, abdi narakade. I have to tell you something. And we would again chalk out a program, and we did it for many companies over the years.
So you traveled with your husband and you went to Chennai and started this. After a few years, you were in Bahrain. You're giving options of, marketing operations there. Tell us about the Bahrain story.
Before Bahrain, it was like I was running the business in Chennai while Sohan was in Bahrain for many years,
Okay.
9 years. And I was doing extremely well for a bank called ABN AMRO. We were the DSA, direct selling agents.
This was your agency when you...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And one of the product was ABN AMRO, liability product and credit product. It was not easy. Nearly 75 boys and girls were working for it, right from sales, marketing, call center, everything was running there. So it was beautiful, very successful. But RBI passed a rule that no longer can a private DSA could do this. And so the bank said we have to stop, and they gave us a timeline and requested that I hand over the entire team to them. And they would get about twice, some of them even 3 times the salary. I didn't want to stand in anyone's way, and by that time I'd already achieved many years of work, and I wanted to join Sohan.
So that's
So
how
I
you
think
went
the whole
to
thing
Bahrain.
fit in very well. And when I gave it up, ABN AMRO gifted me one of the beautiful big amounts and a travel to Amsterdam to visit ABN AMRO there.
Wonderful.
And that's when I packed my bag and joined Sohan at Bahrain.
At Bahrain.
Yeah, so
And what was it like in Bahrain?
because of the sum that I got, because of what it was, I thought I'm putting my legs up and I'm over. I've done it all. What would Bahrain as a small country offer? 15 days.
And you were back.
I was back
on the track.
on with an agency called Red House Marketing.
Ah.
They have never heard of a DSA, never heard of selling credit products. And he took me to Standard Chartered Bank without even telling me what really they wanted. But because it's the core competency, selling these products was something that it was like every day, and I loved it.
And it was reading the psychology of the client more than anything else.
That's what happened. We landed, and I think within less than an hour's time, we got the deal.
Ah.
And we had to have, but then the sales officers were Bahrainis and people from different parts, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Indians. It was tremendous to do that program, and I thought I was very good in what I was doing, but this was a challenge, and that challenge was awesome because life with challenges is the thrill.
Yes, yes, Jay. Jay, right from below the line, BTL activities, selling Horlicks as a promoter, through giving marketing solutions to multinational companies, to going to a foreign land and aiding a bank in their activities. After that, you shifted to becoming an NGO partner. You know, from a corporate world, suddenly JAYSHREE Hatangadi, her identity shifted to volunteering with NGOs. How did this shift? Why a bent of mind to serve, to join an NGO? You know, it's actually very difficult. Many of us do it after we reach the pinnacle, you know, after serving for 30, 40 years or being the president of the company. But a woman with so much of talent and so much energy and life left in her, suddenly, you know, almost the time when you were climbing the ladder, you decided that this is it. I am now going to become an NGO partner, and you started doing service. It's a very difficult switch. Many of us have come to that crossroads and we didn't have the guts to take the NGO as an option. Why did you do it, and how did you do it?
Sohan was very particular that we settle young when we come to Vizag. Let's go home. And I was doubtful. I was doing so well, not only in my entire portfolio of what I was handling, I was earning also equally very well. I have no idea whether India would be able to handle that kind after having led such a big business life. Vizag seemed pretty tiny to me, but it was home. So came back, things were settling in. And the one thing Sohan, I remember, told me, remember, if you walk out and go somewhere, it's not your ability, you're looking for a place which will accept your ability, but that you don't have the ability to manage or do something in any place. It was not a very complimentary kind of a comment. So, but that's when I got to know that let me try and see what this tribals is all about. I heard of them. I didn't know what it was.
So you were interested in the tribals of Andhra Pradesh or Araku?
I had no idea. I was curious.
Tribal is a word that was a soul connect for you.
Yeah, because Sohan was talking to somebody from Samata who was coming home and telling us about it.
So Samata is the NGO you joined first?
Yes, as a volunteer. As a volunteer, because I was planning on working with sales training, soft skill training, all that. I was anyway planning on doing it. So this was just a voluntary one, but it was fascinating. And for me, curiosity kills. I want to do things. I want to know more. That's when no one like myself actually went into those areas. And that's when I went and I was aghast. If we call India diverse, we call India with this beauty, it was right here in our district.
Wow.
And it was so charming, the languages they spoke, the singing they did, the kind of festivities, and most of all is the embrace. I have never felt it like that. Do people really are like that? And when we have finished 2 days or 3 days, I didn't want to go back. Water was difficult, climbing hills was difficult, the food was difficult, but nothing was difficult.
Wow.
It was such a beautiful. So if you really look at it, I had a dynamic, thick, beautiful, engaging life of corporate world. And this was something new here. If I had to value them, I mean, put it in a balance, there was no balance. This was outweighing everything for me at that time.
So tell me, what is the opportunity you saw? JAYSHREE, the beautiful JAYSHREE with all her energy and all her experience. Did you see the opportunity to impact? You mean, see, it's all about impact. Finally, whether you're with an NGO, with a company, or in your house, it is you. It is you that adds value to the system, to the table. So did Jayashree see the opportunity to add value, or did she see the opportunity to inculcate the value that she was watching?
For me, actually speaking, when I started doing this area of going to the tribal area, there was no Jayashree.
Oh.
I was like, it was in the moment. My ability, or rather my professional output which I had, my ability was what was a gift which I thought I should be part of it. So, and when you do these things, there is no you. There is no person at all. You just get engaged into all kinds of little big ones. It's so much that you don't know, and already it's evening and you're so beautiful that you go to sleep, and next morning you're excited to do the next part. So that's what it was. And how would you say? It was like I knew that what I was doing was nothing big, was nothing major, but to them, everything was big.
Yes.
It was a difference that someone, and they don't, many a time they wouldn't even believe that someone like myself would be there. But when I kept going and kept going and kept getting attached, they embraced me and I embraced them, and that time there was no lines at all. It was so beautiful. And everything that I do, right from the time I was in my corporate life or here, my day is audited. I don't spend my day without the consequences of making it better.
So you strategize every day, every moment?
Practically, if I'm with a child, I'm with a youngster, I'm with a company, I'm with a sales, I'm training, everything has to have one level better, something more, something that has made a difference. That is the way I have always been doing it, and I think it's become a pretty much way of my life.
Oh, this is wonderful. So, you actually see value in disconnecting between yourself and the purpose. I think it happened very early for you, Jayashree. Jayashree did not exist in the larger picture. Jayashree was part of the entire show, but she didn't exist. And that is a very philosophical way of looking at where we are going and what we want to do when we are old and in the twilight of our life. So you were already there. God was giving you opportunities with lesser fortunate women, mostly women, from the Samatha Foundation. And you'd seen it all. You'd seen great success. You had large amount of money. You've seen money come and go, and you've seen pain and pleasure of the women they were denied good lives, and then suddenly, God sent. You became a narrator for Heritage. You see how the funnel has formed. As I see it, there was a large opportunity in the corporate world, which we all have, but slowly there was some divine presence, Jayashree, that has made you realize that everything is getting towards one purpose. So although you were taking the women with you and their suffering and their happiness, you were getting to a position where you were finding yourself, you were struggling and seeking for yourself. Tell me about that part of your childhood when Heritage, I'm sure that, for things that are going to come, there's always an indication in our childhood. When did that message, or when did that Messiah, who was that Messiah, who told you first time that in seeking new places, in talking about experiences of heritage, there is life?
The word heritage might not have existed at that time. But both my mom and my dad being a doctor, being very busy, my mom was very curious, always wanted to go to those places which were surrounding wherever, whether it's Bombay or Pune, Lucknow or Vizag. Always worried my dad that we must go and see that. And when we went there, it was never a rush. It was always something of leisure. And she made it a point. We may have been this size or we may have been that size. Chusava, gamaninchava, adi chudu, idi pettu. So I think that was the kind of, she made us observe color, exhibitions, where craftsmen, heritage sites, people of different languages. If something was happening, she took us over there. She made sure I learned dance, veena. I enjoyed it, and everything she would make sure that this is the cultural identity or a traditional identity. We were every place for a short while, but everything was well invested. So I think that was what evolved or made me feel very interested. Both my sister and my brother also were in the same
Same.
kind of value system that we brought in.
So, being a services child had its advantages. You had the opportunities, but having a mother like this is a boon. Because not many mothers actually, most of the services women I see, they handle their lives alone. Their husbands are out either on the ships or at serving, and they handle the burden of the families. And hats off to all my friends who have gone through this. And such a woman with so much on her plate was able to open the door of heritage, of a future experience. It's a rendezvous with your future, isn't it? It's wonderful. Tell us about the relationship between your mother and you.
My mother and I, as we say, it's mother and I don't even know what you call it. It's mom's today 86 years, and I still go with her, I sit with her, I talk with her, and she's the one who's brought me along all this. But one thing I'll tell you, mom was fearful. Mom was always scared. She's a Kolluru family from right here. Always scared. But something about this was my dad made sure that we had 24 boxes for transfers.
Ah.
And this is, I'm talking about now, I realized, it's not that time. My brother and I, my sister is 10 years younger, but my brother and I, my mom would say, Mallana, again we're transferred, despite knowing we will be transferred. But we had these 24 boxes. So my father would say, our entire life has to get into these. Everything else is excess, remove it. And the last 2 boxes were the last ones which she closed the home with. So the last meal she made was from those last 2 boxes, and then she opened those last 2 boxes and fed us and made us home.
Wow.
So although I think that was what it was, that engaging affection of making sure her family, the 3 of us, were never left at lurch. I think all mothers do it, but for experiencing, and since you feel it, one has to share it. So that is what my dad has taught, that don't excess yourself, make sure you strip of all the extras, put those, and that 24 is like 24 hours, you have it, make sure you box your life beautifully well.
I see where you got that from, of valuable usage of time.
Yes.
Oh, Jay, this is wonderful, and sometime you must write the story of 24 boxes. Talking about writing, your involvement in the documenting of tribal life, patterns, cultural heritage, your role in getting the book Girijana Vaibhavam. It's about the story of the tribals. It was published, I remember the happiness all of us had in seeing that book. It was a simple book, but it was a token of love for all those women and men that you met in the tribal hamlets. How did this project come by? How did you decide to, document it? I mean, most of this goes for anthropological studies or, the university kids. None of them are doing that. Here, there was a woman who lived with the tribals, ate with them, slept with them, played with them, knew them by name. And she was documenting the entire Vaibhavams of the Girijalu. Tell us about this.
While I was with Samatha, going up the hills, and they would take everything for granted, it's their life. But we didn't know these things. Yes. So that I would start writing, and then it was just a few points there, but that thing. But coming back and that awe and sharing it with Sohan or anybody else, he also was working or going there. Both of us had, every time I told someone and said, really? Right here? Over there? Names or whatever. Slowly that started becoming larger and larger and larger, and the beauty of it was the setting up of 42 schools in VPTG, Vulnerable Tribal Primitive Group areas, about languages, about festivities, their jewelry, their hunting, past, their medicinal plants. There is no end to the areas that, the difference that is there, but it is their life. And I've been doing it. So this book, when you go to schools, and what do? you suddenly see a child in the 4th standard or 5th standard being told of Taj Mahal or told of something else, or a river that is Ganga that is flowing. She turns her head and she'll see streams flowing from her. No one talks about that.
It. Very
Some
true.
other tree somewhere. So when that was there, and I would tell them, but if you tell me about your village. So children, and I remember one very charming girl in the 6th standard said, Vanaja, ప్రతి మారు మీరు ఇలా చెప్పి బదులు పుస్తకం రాసియండి.
Oh, lovely. That must be the
I
exact way
think
she
that
said it.
exactly how she said it. And believe me, that was what it was. Yeah, we should. I don't read or write Telugu, being where I am, but I can manage now. So I needed someone to put all these points. There are a lot of available points. Some of them are there in other books also. But to gather, mine are live,
Yes.
real ones.
Yes.
But then at the same time, I wanted the school children also to be participative. So we discuss trees, we discuss streams, we discuss languages, we discuss names, we discuss so many things. So they were participative in every aspect of the book. And that's when Balla Pragada Subbarao garu, out of the blue, said, you want me to write for you?
So
I don't
lovely.
even know he's a writer, but he knows Sanskrit, French and German.
Wow.
And he said, I'll do it. And within the first meeting, he came out with a beautiful content list. And that I knew a person was found to write the book. And that Girijana Vaibhavam, because the textbooks don't speak, teachers don't speak, community doesn't speak, it's there, but it is not, and they're losing it. Because of the mainstream education that is giving a child is leaving her home and coming here. So she doesn't know seasons, she doesn't know direction, she doesn't know farming, she doesn't know what's happening in the soil because she's in the school.
Correct.
So school is teaching a mainstream. She's so alienated to that.
From her real life.
And when she's studying, she's supposed to go home and talk like she's an educated soul. And all that is not good learning. So I had to tell them that the real learning is there. So when I started doing that engagement and bridging it, they started feeling proud to be of their ancestry, proud to be who they are.
Wow.
And that's when I brought 32 children to bring them to Sri Prakash. We learnt everything, how to talk. They were saying, oh, they're from Vizag. But believe me, those children had material so much that my girls and boys in Sri Prakash actually had tears.
Lovely.
We didn't know these and they accepted that so well.
That's beautiful. So here we are talking to somebody made in Vizag who has made the Vizag district and the hamlets and the tribes around Vizag a world-known feature, a global feature. And she actually brought a book, much respected and required, a book which little children could read about their own
Yes.
culture, which was
Sure.
diminishing. I think you did a fabulous job. You deserve an applause from everybody. It's difficult to do. This is a selfless thing. This is not something that you're doing for money. You're doing it for your own soul. And this is the legacy that you are leaving back. What strategies did you implement when you went with these 40 tribal schools? How did you see the students were, they were mostly speak in their own language. All these hamlets have their own endemic languages. Even today, despite there is influence of the digital media and the new world, some of the children are still innocent. What is the strategy you use to endure yourself and make them understand that you meant business in improving their life?
We're talking of 42 schools, primary schools, were spread over 2.5 years in 2006, 7 and 8. That was the time when the government did not have primary education for children in their areas because a little child cannot go anywhere. So that is when Balamitra was done by the NGO Samata through something called community-based organizations. They're well versed with their areas, the languages and everything. But how do you get a school made? So when we go and speak and tell them the advantages, but those advantages were inclusive of who they were.
I know.
The languages what they spoke, the produce what they did. We had something so beautiful and they used the methodology called Waldorf where nature was the first teacher.
Wow.
So that one was there, and it was all around. In fact, I thought I dropped all my learning and I started learning that particular, and it was beautiful.
Wonderful.
The way of telling stories, the way of telling mathematics or any science or anything was all there. It's all in the soil, it's all in the tree, it's all over there. And mathematics, directions, building, everything was understood by the child, and it was only 9th or 10th pass students who we trained
To teach,
step
is
by
it?
step to, because we needed the same language.
Correct.
Otherwise, how do you get across? Valmiki, Kond, Gadaba, Kui, these are the languages, Adivasi Oriya, all these.
Oh,
Village to village is different, and it is as far as Tamil to Bihari, the language. It's not like you know one, you'll know all. It was that far.
Different.
With the common language of being taught Telugu and English.
Wow.
Oh, it was a challenge, but it was a beautiful challenge.
Wonderful. Jay, I see again a crossroads. There's so much happening in the tribal villages and hamlets and Jayshree's involvement. And when did narration of heritage come to you? When did you become this beautiful narrator? And when we say heritage narrator, it's a word that is not found. It's a new word, and it can only qualify somebody like you. So today, I remember last week, 10 days back, I saw an article about a ship, a large ship that came and birthed in the Vizag waters, and you were on board already, and you were narrating stories of the heritage of Visakhapatnam to all the foreigners on board. I was so proud, Jayshree. You were there already performing, and what more could you want? You wanted an international liner to connect with the best, and they had reached you. So the world knows that there is this woman and her husband, of course, both of you, and she is the narrator. She, in jungles you have Guran, who tells the stories of the jungle. You tell the stories of Vizag and the heritage of Vizag, making you unique. I don't see anybody else in your slot. You are, this is your USP. If the marketing lady had to qualify, this is your USP. So tell us how heritage narration started.
There were two aspects. 2008, I was director for a American program called School Year Abroad, where American students come to Vizag and homestay at these places, learning Hindi, environment, history, and various other things that go along to give them that platform or stage that they've stayed a year in India. They contribute and they take back. Now I'm an Indian, I know everything. Unbelievably, the questions those young American students, 16 to 18 years, would ask, I had very skeletal answers.
Yes, okay.
It was like, Mom told me, I know it. But nothing in depth. Those answers were not enough to me. So how do I explain it to them? And they're taking it back. So that's when my homework started. Believe me, we have all the information within us. Point is, no one asks us.
The right questions.
When they ask, something comes out and you have to be able to tell. And if you don't know, no harm in saying, I don't know, I'll check,
I
find
will
out
learn.
and tell you. But there was a beautiful way that I did it to cross that over. Every Thursday, they would ask me these questions in papers. Some things was very common knowledge, which I did. They would give it to me, and the next Thursday, I would go and answer them.
So you had 1 week to prepare.
I had that, and I would keep joining it with lot more other things.
Wow.
So that way, they had a lot to take back. And during them, when we have travels, taking them, I realized that it's not just saying architecturally, isko aise bolte hain, wo bolte hain. You can't. What the guide says. I felt that there was something losing out in the completeness. I would have read it, but for them to engage with the read material is not enough when you're on the site right there.
Standing.
So that was when I started talking and making sure that the children had a better exposure at every place we went, whether it is commerce, that is market space, whether it is languages, whether it is architectural sites, whether it is accessories, whatever. They had to have an in-depth connection with that.
So was that the storyteller in you that came alive beautifully?
And it's more on the audit mind. I have to make a good job.
So it was the marketing woman again.
No, it's just that you have to be good.
It was the
That's, yeah,
JAYSHREE.
it was just that.
Jay, every city has a story to tell. Every city is a mute spectator to change. Every city has a history and a geography to support it. Our city is unique. Many people do not know about, the golden age of Vishakhapatnam, how it was named, what is the sea, the stories of the sea, the sand, the hills talk to us, the temple tourism talks to us, the heritage sites talk about plunder, they also talk about spirituality. There is so much happening around us, and it all comes in vibrations. So if you just go sit in a place and try to feel the vibration of Vizag, you can actually feel the pure vibration. I've often felt the city talking in my ears, but for someone who's sensitive like you, who is actually like a frequency, vibe, the city of Vizag, you take people across, you take by foot walks. I've seen these walks in other cities and other countries, but your walks are unique. I've also joined you. You actually ask questions, play games. You make it sound like a happy picnic. And how do you plan and strategize? Because see, if I ask 20 people to walk on a heritage tour, unless we're a bunch of friends having fun, doesn't make sense. But people who come to you on your heritage tours do their homework, because you find JAYSHREE giving away small gifts, quizzes, and I've enjoyed this. How do you plan to make every story interesting? And do you have a route map? Like Vizag, these are the 10 places I will promote.
Vizag is, how do you say, divided or not really divided, has very prime areas which are address our heritage. Being the hills and being the ocean, we have the maritime heritage. So the maritime heritage is beautifully shared inside the museum, which has got a lot of artifacts. So that is very interesting for school students, college students, and you keep doing it. So while that is happening, you speak about the fishermen. So we've done a lot of those at the museum itself, with showing the live, the inside the ocean life that is there. Now when we say heritage, usually people think it is only the built heritage.
Yes,
it
that's
is not so. Whereas it is all the natural heritage,
The
geo
experiences.
heritage, cultural heritage, traditional, tangible, intangible. So one who speaks should be very clear which aspect are we focusing on. So while we are Vizag, that is one part which we do. And because we are by the ocean, God alone knows from how many centuries people have been coming to our coastline and actually made space for themselves. So one of the oldest would be our Buddhist sites.
Yes.
3rd century BC. They've built a huge structure there. Coins have been found, relics have been found, inscriptions have been found. So all this is because of our coastline, and they must have. How did they climb the hills? How did they make these places? With 52 viharas, a Mahastupa, all those things. Each one of them have a significance in the language of making the use that they were used. So 500, 400 years. Today we don't know what is 60 years.
Correct.
And there 400 to 500 years an institute was running. And it was known as Totlakonda Bauddha Ramam. Usually in the Buddhist dictionary, Sangha Ramams are all over. I remember I went to Sanchi, visiting there, and the curator of the museum there, I met him. Obviously it's a Buddhist site. I'm very excited to tell him, although what I saw was so fascinating, I also come from an equally
Strong Buddhist
important
area.
space. But the map outside showed blank for
we are not
Andhra.
marked.
We were not there at all, except for Amravati, one small dot. We were all blank. So I said, no, come, let me tell you. And across his table, when I told him, and I said, it's a Bauddha Ramam, he sniggered and thought I was just talking. And I told him, no, and I had my stuff, so I sent him. Within 2 months, they landed 4 of them to see, because
check
they
up?
couldn't believe, not to check up, to
Thank you.
absolutely experience that.
Wow.
And he told me a few more things about the site, which made me feel we are way more important than many sites. There are many sites in the country that are 2nd, 3rd century BC.
Correct.
Agreed. But they've not been covered like ours.
The golden
Ours got
quadrilateral.
lost.
Yes.
Only in 76 they were got to know. 84, 85 they started excavation. So what we have is priceless.
Shouldn't the government be doing something about promoting this globally? You will have Japanese, the Chinese, the Buddhists who would want to know the story. Buddha had disappeared for some part of his life, and there is a speculation that he spent a large amount of his life in this area. Is there? No?
He never came down of India.
India. But there are some people from his side who professed,
No, but
Buddhists.
Absolutely, Meena, because if they didn't go and meet him, they wouldn't have come
there.
And we are not talking of one site or two sites, we're talking of 30 odd sites in 4 districts.
Oh.
Vizag itself has Pauralakonda, Totlakonda, Bavikonda, Bojjanakonda, each one of them significant in the monuments within the monument. What would have happened? So if you actually come with me on a walk, you will see what could have happened for a monk over there. And even people like you and me, I mean,
Yes.
women were not allowed initially because these are Thervada sites. A trader who was fascinated by what is going on wouldn't want to become a monk, but he wants to experience. For him, there was a separate place where they would cook and serve him. So that is why we are a Bauddha Ramam. It was above, very modern. We must remember in all these heritage sites, when they were doing what they were doing, was the most modern
times
of their
era, their time, yes, yes.
They wouldn't have imagined that 2000 years later, on a Meenamma show, that I would be talking about this.
Yes.
They wouldn't have. So that's the beauty
It's a secret hidden, and
Yes.
only we can speculate.
Yes.
I want to take you maybe toward the last few questions. I'm very fascinated about your connection with postcards from Vizag. When I heard the word postcards from Vizag, it just took me back to childhood when, our only communication with our parents were postcards, grandparents. Tell me about this wonderful man who comes back like the migratory bird to the city he was born in, and you and the entire tribe sit with him and open postcards and read about Vizag as it was. Tell us about postcards.
So while we're talking about Buddhist history, tribal, maritime, geo-heritage, we have all this. One very big landmark heritage of ours is the pre-independence colonial history.
Yes.
We have very significant landmarks throughout Old Town, and that is the walk where we have a 10-point walk. So this I was doing since 2015 on my own, where people were asking, and if I said 5 people were coming, it was always 15 or 20. So I was prepared with maps and photos and different things to show people what was there but not seen now.
The British
so
influence.
To connect, yeah, and everything. And we have foundation stones there and everything.
Yes.
So 2018 December, I'll never forget, I received an email from a gentleman called John Castellers with a fabulous colored map, 1758 official British one. And he says, I've been watching, reading that you're doing it. Would this map interest you? Interest me? I wanted to bang my head and say, where the hell did you get this? That's how it was, and that's how it began. And John Castellers is a aeronautical engineer who lives in Melbourne but studied right here in St. Aloysius till 9th standard, got onto a ship and immigrated there. And now during his retired life, Vizag is more with him than with anybody else.
It is so wonderful.
And he has been researching because Britishers have diaried, gazetted, made things very crystal clear. Now, whether that is the truth or not is for debate, but I feel that they have recorded. That research has brought it forward. Now, the first thing we had at the park was the postcards from Vizag.
Yes.
What is that postcard? People who worked here. Britishers who lived here, Europeans who gave their lives here, tradespeople who were here and wanted to say something
Vizagapatnam.
and they would write back to them And from there, people would write back here.
Yes.
And people have kept these.
Wow.
That itself was a trail, was a path, was a connect between the rest of the world and over here.
Vizag. Wow.
So that's what it is. So that was what the first program was. And with just postcards, the entire story unfolds about who was here, how they were here, what did they build, what did they do, how long were they there, and then the whole thing goes on. And of course, there's a lot more that goes on while we do it.
It's interesting.
In fact, there's a beautiful story I do, 180 degrees, 8 stories from Ross Hill.
Okay.
I just take people across 180 degrees, and at every point there are sensational times of Vizag's development, confusion, World War II, and many other things. And how did we even get the name Dolphin Hill? Who did it? 1712, Suhana INS went and they named it. Like that, there are so many stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Are you planning to write a book and document all these stories?
I think John Castellers is doing a very good job about
Fantastic.
that part, but there's a lot more of our heritage which needs to be documented. I don't know whether I can, but because you say so, maybe I'll think about it.
Wonderful. You know, many of us respect the time and energy that you spend on finding the identity of our city. And I think Made in Vizag is all about people like you who give back to the city the roots from where they came. But personally, I have seen the last few years the very strong JAYSHREE. You were visited by some diseases, and you have gone through cancer very closely, and you didn't care a damn for that disease because it didn't matter in the larger picture. But for all those who are struggling families with cancer and patients, I want those few words on how you are able to cope amidst all this excitement. The bad news that, your biopsy says you're positive for a cancer, your chemotherapy, your fight, and then you're bouncing back. Nothing can stop you. How was that journey and how do you handle it?
Just before I was diagnosed, I went on a long trip of 28 days to Uzbekistan.
Wow.
Crossed across many landscapes, and I came back, and within few days I was diagnosed. First thing is, I was thankful it got diagnosed after I traveled.
There it is.
And as soon as I was told about it, it was just like another chapter. The people who were telling me was the doctors and giving me complete strength and hope. I've been living with this kind of strength and hope from my father, who's a neurosurgeon.
Yes.
And he's seen so many patients, and that's what a hospital is all about. And I'm right at one of the best places with the best team. And yes, my family, my sister, my daughter, who got to know and came. First thing is, the honesty that comes from the disease, it has to be treated. That treatment can happen as a path by the chosen doctors. Many of them fear and go to 10 people.
Yes. You have to trust.
And what happens is, it is a collage of treatment that is happening, but not the in-depth that is happening. Pain will be there, but it will go. The discomfort will be there, it will go. But the strength of the doctors treating you will always be there.
Yes.
And the love, affection of the family will always be there. Maybe things may go wrong, but that's another day, who cares? Today it is. But I have met many people. Have you gone there? Have you seen this one? They have a medicine, that one is like this one is like that. That confuses the patient, thinking that the partner or the family member is not doing adequately.
Denying.
Yeah, which first and foremost, I didn't want it. Not even probably a second opinion. I was blessed with one of the best doctors looking after.
Yes.
And I advise everybody, we as a patient can't do much. Just go through it.
Submit yourself.
Yes.
And have faith.
Only thing is, give that strength to your doctor for him to treat you.
Yeah, I don't know many people would know, but this beautiful lady is also a medical clown. She gives back. I have seen her, I have watched her energy. She comes to cancer kids and talks to them, dances with them, and actually makes everything so beautiful for people in pain. Life is a beautiful balance between, a narration of your troubles and your good times, the community around you, and your commitment to where you were born. I think Vizag has a perfect balance of the beauty of everything, the beauty of the sea, the lovely romantic sea, the resilience of the hills, which we see in people like JAYSHREE, the lovely tribal instincts that are all around us, telling us that life is so colorful. So, a city like this is only a city that can have the energy of people like JAYSHREE, caught and bound, but still bursting like an atom bomb to give to the future. Great stories of heritage, great stories of commitment and strength. It was such an honor to have you, JAYSHREE, with me. It's been a dream, and I've always admired you, not just as a woman, but as the person that you are. And thank you for coming and honoring Meenamma. And Meenamma would like you to sign this little pink cup. Pink stands for a disease that you fought and conquered. And Meenamma admires and loves you for this. So this will go up in the archives on my shelf, and I'll show off that this great narrator, this great heritage narrator, may be the only one in the world to say that she is a heritage narrator. Check this out. This is her word for herself. It should be patented by her because she is the best thing that happened to Vizag.
It was awesome.
Thank you so much, Jay. Thank you. Chalo, let's take a picture.